this is a real life story. That's why I feel so passionate about it. I found accounts receivable factoring, and within a week, I was able to know that guaranteed funding was there, that payroll was going to be covered, and that was the first good night's sleep I had in weeks.
Welcome to another episode of the Growth Game podcast. I'm Paul DeLuca, CEO of Meritus Capital. We're thrilled to be airing our first episode of 2025, and we've got a whole bunch of updates and some exciting things happening. So we're going to get right into it. We're super excited for this year. But as a first guest for the year, we thought it was appropriate to change things up a bit, and I am going to introduce you to Adam Forbes. Adam has been in the business for a long time. I finally was super excited to have him join our team. So Adam now is part of Meritus Capital, and we thought it'd be really fun to be able to learn more about him, his journey in the staffing industry, and really kind of where we're going from here. So Adam, welcome.
Thank you so much. It is a legitimate honor to be with you. I've admired this podcast for quite some time. So, hey, I'm thrilled to be in the hot seat.
Yeah, exactly. In the hot seat, right? So nice to have you on. So it's great. Well, Adam, as we always do in the growth game, we focus on ideas or things that we can do that our audience can do to replicate and mimic things that they take from information that either my guests and I have seen or on things that we've experienced. And so, these things are implementable, right? Like in their businesses. And so we want to definitely highlight those things, but we want to just get to know you. Like, love to understand your career. Man, you've been in insurance and operations and now and in payroll funding and the staffing industry for years. Whatever got you into this business?
Well, it's been 25 years now, and I will say you're right. Like I've been in many different industries within the industry. I've sat on many sides of the desk, but it all started 1998. I got a job out of school, and I thought I was going to work for a large construction company. Within the first day, I quickly realized, oh, this is actually a staffing company. And that was my first introduction. It's not something I set out to do, but was kind of drawn into it. And this is now 2025, so 27 years later. And it has kept me energized. It has kept me engaged. It has kept me learning, which is what I love to do. And it's an industry that I would not change for anything. No regrets. It's given me a career. It's given me so many great relationships. So getting into staffing was a blessing back in 1998, and kind of my progress throughout the past, 2.5 decades has been a progression of working directly for a staffing company, owning a staffing company, then moving on to the vendor side of things where I'm servicing staffing companies, like was mentioned in the introduction, from a workers' comp insurance perspective, from a professional insurance lines, everything down to compliance. I have ran PEOs, which service staffing companies. And in my past, I have actually worked with accounts receivable factoring companies, both as a broker and as an internal employee on the sales side. So definitely something I'm passionate about. I was familiar with it. Accounts receivable funding, or factoring and payroll funding saved my business when I first got into the staffing industry.
That's exciting. I like that one. That's going to have to be a nice little tidbit that we push out there. But you actually believe that payroll funding saved your staffing company?
No doubt. And my sanity along with it.
We talk a lot about that, actually.
Yeah.
We talk about people having less stress and pressure when they turn to us to get funded, but I love to hear that coming from a real world example. Tell me a little bit about that. So you started your staffing company. What was the stress? What was the issue, and how did it save your company by going to payroll funding?
Well, the way my company started, it was not necessarily planned.
Hmm.
So, it wasn't this nice, long, drawn out, business plan, take it one step at a time. And then after I get this set up, move on to the next thing. And here's my goals. It was kind of forced upon me. It was a situation where it was now or never. The owner of the company that I worked for and that I helped managed, they were older in years. They were venture capitalists, really just investors. They weren't involved in the
Uh-huh.
business and
Yep.
decided to leave like really kind of in the middle of the night. That's a
Mm.
slight exaggeration, but
Yeah.
that's what
That's
ended up
how it felt.
happening.
That's how it felt to
Yeah.
you. Kind of just got dumped on your lap then. Said, figure it
Well,
out.
and not with like here's the keys, here's a way to
Hmm.
keep it going. It was like, look, we
Yeah.
have to shut down tonight. They
Oh, wow.
no longer had the stomach
Wow.
for the business. And
Hmm.
me, the first thing I thought about was the hundreds of employees that we had out on
Hmm.
temporary assignment.
Right.
And I just said, I care about these people. My name is on
Hmm.
it. There's no way that I can just, turn the lights off in this office and say, hey, the owner's left. Good luck.
Wow.
That just
Wow.
wasn't going to happen.
You've never told me this. What an amount of stress. You had hundreds of people that were not going to get paid unless you figured something out.
Yes.
Wow.
And so what I did was I got with some very friendly who would
Hmm.
be considered competitors,
Hmm.
but that I was very diplomatic and friendly with. And I said, look, I need a place to park these wonderful people for three
Yeah.
months
Right.
while I get my business set up because it was
Hmm.
really getting set up from the ground up.
Yeah.
I had great relationships with the clients, so that made a huge difference. The
Hmm.
clients, I had their support to say, look, okay, we'll take on this other vendor for
Hmm.
the 3 months while you get your company set up. We'll do like a minimum, a minimal contract, 3 months. Once you're set up, if those employees want to go back with you, which I'm sure they will,
Hmm.
you have our blessing. You will have our business.
That's exciting. That's a
Yeah,
fun way to
so
start a business and stressful.
it was, and it involves some other, some additional requirements that uh,
Yeah.
go above and beyond just standard business. So like we
Sure.
did a lot of work in the construction industry, and so we were
Mm.
required by the state of California to have a contractor's license.
Right. Right.
Um, and that was so I also had to in the scope of getting a business together, I also had to cram for studying for passing a general contractor's state
General
exam.
contractor exam so you could be a staffing agency. So you were really doing construction staffing, like labor staffing, but you had to carry the actual
That was
California
that was the
license.
requirement for many of
Yeah.
our clients. Yeah.
Yeah.
So, I mean, long story short, we got up and running.
Hmm.
Every time I came to a brick wall, I said, "Well, if we can get over this, I'll view it as a sign that we keep moving forward." And
Exciting.
wall after wall would fall down, and we push forward. So, great. We're in business officially. I'm in business for myself. I had some great people supporting me. Uh, I used all of my savings on the
Right.
first payroll run.
Oh man,
All of it.
I love it. I love it.
And in the meantime, I had started. I'd been to bank after bank after bank, just trying to get a line of credit.
Sure.
Um, and the offers I were getting were they'd cover one payroll. You
Right.
know.
Just not enough
uh,
at all to grow your business.
yeah. So the excitement of opening my own business, the excitement that comes from getting a new deal. You have a new customer or a new order from an existing customer
Yeah.
that says, "Hey, Adam, great news! We're going to really pump up your business. We need 60, qualified workers to be at our facility next week."
Yeah.
And
Right.
you go, "Yeah, that's awesome! High five for about 5 seconds." And then you
And then you're
realize,
going, how do I pay these people? How do I
how
pay
am
the
I going to pay these
employees?
people?
Yeah.
Absolutely. And
Right.
this is a real life story. That's why I feel
I
so
love it.
passionate about it.
Yeah.
I found accounts receivable factoring,
Yeah.
and within a week, I was able to know that guaranteed funding was there,
Yeah.
that payroll was going to be covered, and that was the first good night's sleep I had in weeks.
That's so
Um,
exciting. I love
yeah.
that.
So
Oh.
so two things really came together. It was
Hmm.
Finding that, a factoring partner and understanding what
Yeah.
accounts receivable factoring was and how it
Yeah.
could, help scale my business.
Sure.
Um, and two, staffing, as an industry. Like I
Yeah.
was hooked for life.
Yeah.
And the
It's such a
energy
people
that comes with,
business. I think it
yeah,
does hook you for life. And I can't even remember, Adam, one of my guests who said they got out of school and planned to be in staffing. Every single one, everybody starts out with, I was doing something else and I fell into it and all of a sudden I got hooked. I mean, it is a common, repeated thing I hear over and over again. So it's actually kind of exciting. You and I also have a lot in common in that we both were in the business in staffing and had that stress of making payroll and then made that transition over the years to actually now be the people that provide the payroll funding to our other clients. I think that's what I saw in you was that passion because you get hooked on it. You get hooked on being able to help solve people's issues. I mean, I personally was there on a Friday night feeling that same thing, going, I have absolutely no idea how I'm going to pay my employees. I mean, that was in the mid '90s, but that's exciting that you had that same path. Very, very cool. So you did that for a while. Then you transitioned, staying within staffing, but you then transitioned into being able to service staffing agencies. I know you had some time where you were working with the payroll funding or factoring industry, but I think you've really spent most of your time in the insurance world, solving insurance needs for staffing. Tell us a little bit about your unique perspective. Like you've learned all these interesting things that fuel staffing agencies. What do you think that unique perspective now brings back to this part of your career where you're going to really focus on payroll funding for your staffing agencies?
sure. So I've always been domiciled in the state of California. Although I've had business in multiple states and definitely worked with staffing companies all over the United States. I've always been based in California, and with California comes extremely high prices for workers' comp premiums. It's an incredibly litigious state, uh, um, and so along with funding and working capital, I realized very quickly when I got into the industry how big of a deal workers' comp is. And it's not just your average insurance product, like auto insurance, where, hey, you pay your premium. If you get in an accident, it, covers the cost. Here's a deductible, and nothing really changes after that. I saw how much of an impact and effect workers' comp um, claims and the cost of premium, how much that can impact a company's bottom line and really prohibit a company from scaling and growing. So yeah, so I did spend about what amounted to 15 years now that I've been a licensed insurance broker um, in the state of California, Pennsylvania, and Florida. And the perspective, really, I'll say, is that I understand that it's one of those key necessary functions that every staffing company, every business has to have, but that it can't just be a dormant product that you really don't pay much attention to, or oh, it's there if I need it. I understood, how much the risk mitigation, the things that you put in place now, how they have an impact on the future and things that you maybe do not see, and how those can impact staffing companies' sustainability and how they can affect profitability down the line.
Yeah, I love that. That's super interesting. It's a very unique perspective for anybody on my team. Nobody on my team really has that core experience from the insurance workers' comp world. We work with so many partners and relationships that are in your business, which we will continue to do since we are not offering the workers' comp. We're just offering the payroll funding. But your unique perspective on this will help us, I think, be even more full service with both our referral sources that are in the insurance business, but especially with our clients to really understand the dynamics of their challenges in both of these two critical things. You have to have the money to pay the payroll so that you can keep getting clients, and you have to proactively have good workers' comp for your temporaries, or you will grow out of business. And so I appreciate that perspective really is, I think, going to very much enhance our offering. Now when you talk with as really an advisor, an skilled advisor. You've been in staffing. You've now, covered these two very challenging things that staffing agencies have. So when you start to talk to your prospects and clients, how does this unique perspective translate specifically into growth? This is the Growth Game podcast. So what I would love our audience to hear, Adam, is your perspective. How can we help our clients be readied for and understand different dynamics that they will face when they go to grow their staffing agency?
Sure. No, great question. And I wish there was a simple answer, but really it does take, it's a team effort, to use a cliche. It takes
Hmm.
multiple things working together and working well together. Um, but it is possible. And
Hmm.
the nature of risk in itself, by definition,
Yeah.
means that it's unpredictable.
Yeah.
So it's not never going to be perfect. And there, even with all the AI and the best actuaries in the world, you're never
Hmm.
going to be able to perfectly accurately predict for
Yeah.
the future. But you can make some really good decisions, put really good plans in place to set you up for success,
Yeah.
and the best chance for success. We
Hmm.
talked about risk mitigation, and so and how that coincides with who you hire as, or what
Hmm.
applicants you're bringing in, who you place out on assignment, what clients you end up signing a contract with, and which ones you turn down.
Right.
Um,
Client selection is so important. I agree with that.
right. So I would say that there is definitely a place, and there's many tools to do it, to research different workplaces. So for the staffing company to do their own degree of underwriting
Yeah.
when it comes to client selection. Is it going to be a good environment for their employees? I think if you always have the well-being and the safety of your employees as the top priority, um, you might not get every contract. You might get
Yeah.
underbid
Yeah.
by other agencies, but you will always secure your reputation. You will safeguard that
Yeah.
reputation, and you will eventually succeed.
I love that. I love that. Yeah, I absolutely agree with that. I mean, I'm passionate about, as you know, passionate about making sure we have the right people that are doing the right thing. I mean, doing the right thing is just always ends up long term being the most profitable thing, and so I agree with that. So maybe you could list for us if you picked two or three things that you could see as a pattern. We're always talking about pattern matching success, pattern matching growth. From your insight in watching successful staffing agencies, can you give for us a top three list? What are the patterns of success that a staffing agency seems to always have?
Well, I'll start with this. I'll start with the companies that are recognized as being the most successful.
Okay.
Um, are typically ones that understand the difference between a profitable account
Yeah.
and an account that just generates revenue.
Yeah, that's very
Um,
interesting. What do you mean by that?
so what I mean by that is, staffing is an industry that presents incredible opportunities to grow extremely quickly,
Yeah.
which I think is what draws a lot of people to the industry. Um,
Hmm.
I'll use, not to get, morbid on us, but, I'll use the recent natural disasters in the state of California, the wildfires
Yeah,
that
yeah,
are
terrible,
happening.
terrible situation out there. Hope you and your family, everybody's safe and not inhaling too much smoke.
Thank you so much. Yeah, I think things are clearing out, which is a good thing.
Right,
But ultimately, there's 20,000 homes completely destroyed. There's thousands
right.
of businesses that have been destroyed.
Yeah,
Um, it creates, not to be disrespectful to the people that have lost their homes, but it does create an opportunity
yeah.
for staffing companies to fulfill a real need. There is
Okay.
now companies that are coming in from multiple states,
Hmm.
contractors, suppliers, uh,
Hmm.
that are going to be rebuilding these communities.
Sure.
Um, they don't have the expertise, They don't
Hmm.
have the local knowledge, the
Right.
jurisdictional knowledge, to be able to support the building needs um, to rebuild these cities. So
Sure.
they're going to be relying on staffing companies. I
Yeah.
say that story because there's many staffing companies that are going to get the call that says, "Look, we need 75 uh, carpenters, we need 20 electricians, we need 40, um, cleanup people, uh,
Right.
at one location." You could take a regional staffing company, you know, they could quadruple in size and revenue overnight. Um, the area where discipline comes into play, and the successful staffing companies understand this, is they don't sacrifice their profitability for volume. Um,
Okay.
what I mean is volume is always going to be there's always going to be a place for it.
Hmm.
But if that volume is actually presenting negative cash flow in the long
Right.
run,
Right.
it's not sustainable,
Yeah,
and you end
and
up.
and I think your perspective on risk is also that not only could that quick growth be something they can't handle from a financial perspective. Of course, they could solve that with allowing us to fund their payroll, and they could make their payroll. But I think the real gotcha moment isn't it really that they do work in areas that are going to actually be more risky than they realize. So people are going to start getting hurt, and it's going to hit their workers' comp mod. I mean, are those the things that go into the whole equation then that successful companies don't fall for?
Absolutely. So when I talk about profitability, it's not just a simple like markup equation, but it's a lot of
Right. It's long term.
it's long term. It's the cost that you don't
Yeah.
necessarily see that can start to gradually undermine that foundation, that you've been building, and then that next wave that comes through, the tower falls down.
Right. I
Um,
love it. That
Sometimes
makes
it's
a lot of
things that you
sense.
don't see. So, uh, the disciplined companies, they understand that not all opportunities are created equal, and
Right.
opportunities that might generate a lot of revenue, it doesn't necessarily mean it's something that you need to go after right away because there's inherent risk,
Hmm.
there's financial risks
Yep.
that in the long run, that
Okay.
is
So
not
let's say
yeah,
then that number one on that list is number one is don't sacrifice profitability long term for volume. So smart staffing companies don't chase volume purely for volume's sake. It has to be profitable long term. I love that. I think that makes a lot of sense. And sometimes we don't talk about that. So that's a great pattern to match for long term success. That's a great one. Do you have one or more, two more tidbits?
Yeah, you know what? I was thinking about this, and a lot of these, by the way, too, I've learned the hard way. So
All
it's not
right.
like me standing on a soapbox and saying, "Hey, this is the right way to do things."
The
Um,
best
I,
education sometimes is formed by the things we're left over with because we had a whole bunch of other things that we've messed up on.
no, absolutely.
Me as
Another thing
well.
that comes to mind is kind of feeling like you are going to be the one agency to change a bad operator. And
Hmm.
this is what I mean by that. In highly populated areas, especially, or areas where there's a high concentration of commerce. So I'm
Hmm.
talking like the greater Chicagoland area,
Sure.
um, uh, Los Angeles,
Hmm.
and the Inland Empire in California, um, New York. Uh, you will find what I call repeat offenders as far as worksite locations. Companies that utilize staffing to support um, their workforce needs, but also have developed a reputation of treating those temporary workers like second class citizens,
That's
uh,
interesting.
not having a care for safety, um,
Hmm.
or not paying their invoices. Um,
Yeah. Yeah.
and
I
there's
don't want to hear that one. That's the one that keeps me up at night.
but I've seen it time and time again
Yeah.
where a staffing agency comes through, they know the reputation. They know that
Mm.
everyone else has failed, but
Yeah.
that pride. which everyone has in their business, you say, no, I'm going to be the one to do this right. I'm going to be the one to change
Ah,
this company. And so, you go in, you set your standards. Hey, this is how we're going to do it though. But then, a lot of those companies realize within the first couple of weeks, oh
yeah.
boy, they haven't made any changes. And despite our best efforts, this work site location is just not going to change.
That's
Um,
interesting. That's not
yeah,
something we talk about very often, and I agree with you. As you're really focusing in on that, you're right. I've seen that in my career. There have been repeat offenders on the account debtor side or the work site side, the people that are actually paying the invoices to our clients, the staffing agencies, and I've seen that. I've seen tough credits. I don't think it's anything I've ever really looked at on the workers' comp side and the risk side. It's just not something I know. But come to think of it, I suspect that has a big part of it, right? A big part of the decision. But I've seen them move from one client to another client, even of mine. And I have actually seen invoices just not get paid left over. And there's been some accounts that we just won't accept anymore because of that. But that's interesting about the workers' comp risk side. In fact, that some of them just don't care about their client or the employees, and that's a great pitfall that you can help our clients stay out of going forward. So I love it. So really, then if I look at the top two pattern match success, number one, don't take volume just for volume's sake. It has to be profitable long term. And number two, don't expect to change the repeat offenders on the client worksite side. That's a great, very unique perspective that I know you'll be able to help our clients with. So thank you for that.
no, I appreciate that. And then just to kind of like sum it up, again, there's a lot of tools that a staffing agency can use to research, kind of do some risk analysis, both financially and from a workers' comp safety perspective. Um, do all the research you can, but ultimately, even with AI, I think so much still boils down to common sense
Yeah.
and kind of that gut feeling, that you have. Um, so listen to those instincts.
Yeah.
If you're looking at revenue and going, oh man, that looks really nice, but this just something
Mhm.
doesn't feel right.
Yeah.
Listen to that because
Yeah.
9 times out of 10, your instinct is probably going to be spot on.
Yeah.
Um, and
Yeah. And it can
meanwhile,
and it can come back and bite you big time. It can damage your whole business.
yeah, it can. And so this isn't, it's not me coming on your podcast trying to scare everybody or
Yeah.
with the horror stories
But it's
because
be
I love,
thoughtful though.
yeah, but I love growth
Yeah.
just as much as anybody. And there is so much energy that I get when I see
Hmm.
people starting a business or experiencing rapid growth.
Yeah.
'Cause I've been in those shoes before, and it is a rush. It is like
Yeah. It
if
is.
you could bottle that, and sell it in little, shot glasses, that would be incredible. But
Yeah.
and for what it's worth, I love to be a part of that. I love
Right.
to whether it's
Same.
just through friendly education or sharing experiences or collaborating with helping them set up strategic partnerships with people that can
Yeah.
help, um, or having them as a direct client where I see that growth firsthand. It's an amazing, beautiful thing, and
Yeah.
I get a lot of joy and energy out of that, and that's part of what's always kept me in the business as well.
Same. Yeah. No, I appreciate that. We think perfectly alike there, and I think it really just lends right to my next question. But what excites you the most about joining Meritus Capital?
Yeah, one, the culture is undeniable. I've known of Meritus for a while, selfishly and on a personal level, I feel like walking in, I feel like I'm a good fit with the culture, and I feel like I've known
Yeah.
everybody for a long time.
I agree.
And that's
And thank you
important.
for that.
Yeah.
Thank you.
I've always say, look, it's rare that you're ever going to be gleefully happy at your job because it's work, right?
Yeah.
But there's no reason you can't have joy and you can't like build off of other, people
So
and
well
and
said.
and just enjoy your day and enjoy what you do. And that's what I feel here. Um,
Good.
but I'm also from a business side, I'm very excited. Those 25 years that I've been in the industry, I've developed a lot of great relationships.
Right.
Some of those relationships, I haven't been able to connect with in some time.
Sure.
Joining Meritus gives me the opportunity to get back in there and collaborate, and I'm really looking forward to that because I do
That's
love being
exciting.
with people. I love learning from people, and then us being able to have a really tailor-made product for startup companies.
Oh,
Uh,
very exciting.
I'm very excited about that. I love working with startup companies. Like I said, from my own experience, that was a stressful time in my life, but one of the most exciting times in my life. And being able to live that over and over again through, our prospective partners and prospective clients and helping them get that set up, I'm able uh, be a recipient of that energy again. And
Yeah, that
and
is exciting.
yeah, and I understand too. Like I'm not naive to how special staffing is. Um, I've always used that term, like the terminology or the phrase, like it's a win 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 win. I mean, it's
True.
we're they're providing good people that want to work
Yep.
opportunities to
Yep.
go and do their thing. It provides an opportunity to get projects done that
Yep.
otherwise might take a very long time because they're able to help that whoever that is scale their business
Hmm.
through more workforce. Um, and it's great for the economy.
Yeah.
It's a driving
Agreed.
force, and so I will fiercely defend staffing at every
Yeah.
turn. I feel like within the staffing industry, even though it's very competitive, there's always room to build each other up
Yep.
and collaborate. One staffing company does well, it makes the whole industry look good.
Yeah.
One staffing company kind of goes off the rails, and the
Yeah.
whole industry
And it
takes a
hurts
little
everyone.
hit.
Yeah.
So I'm very prideful about reputation. I'm prideful about reputation for the staffing industry, and I will do everything I can to help protect
Yeah.
that and build on
That's
it.
exciting. It sounds like you're passionate about it. You've joined a passionate group of people. I think you kind of let the cat out of the bag, but we might as well just make this big announcement now. We've been talking about doing something really big this year. You're central to that effort, and stay tuned. But we have an offering for startup staffing companies that is going to change the face of how companies start in staffing, and that's going to happen this year. So stay tuned for that big announcement. If you've ever thought about getting into the business, we're going to have a product especially made for you. And Adam is really heading up that effort. Adam's key objective is to work with our strategic partners. So he's going to be doing lots of effort with all of our we know a lot of the same people and a lot of the same companies, but we're going to make a special effort on being collaborative and inclusive with other vendors in the industry. And so we're working on some strategic things, not just manual traditional way of, hey, let's help each other, but something much more in depth. And so Adam, we're really looking forward to you really leading that effort for startups and also leading that effort for really developing our strategic partnerships more and more. And we are as excited as you. So we're thrilled to have you on board. So let's talk about one last thing. If you were to say that to a staffing owner, what's the one wish you would want them to know? What would you want them to know and understand about what their future was going to look like? If you started every single sales conversation with, "Oh boy, I really wish this owner knew this or understood this about their growth," what is it that you love for them to know or you're going to try to convey to them?
Well, it can be very hard in this business to stay disciplined. Uh,
Yeah.
and what I mean by staying disciplined, I know that's a very broad term, can mean many
Hmm.
different things, is there will be no shortage of opportunities. However, not all opportunities are created equal. There's going to be prospects that want you to completely tear up your client service agreement or your contracts and write something that you're not comfortable with,
Yeah.
or they're going to really try to pin you into lowering your rates when you know that you're getting now below a threshold that will put you in financial jeopardy. Stay disciplined. Stay disciplined. Stick to what your plan is. And if you safeguard, again, your reputation, you will stand the test of time. Companies that are not disciplined, they might seem like they're profiting in the short term, and they're prospering and they're getting all the accounts. Those are the companies that typically won't be here 3 years from now. Stay disciplined, keep your reputation intact, get with good partners, treat your employees well, and you will thrive. It just might not be a shortcut.
Yeah.
There is a lot of things in staffing that are fast tracked, but they're still not shortcuts.
Yeah.
So,
Well said. I
yeah,
love that. That's beautiful. That's great advice. And we're going to have a great year. I feel like 2025 is going to be outstanding. We're thrilled to have you on board, Adam. I'm really happy that you got to be the first guest of 25. We've got a whole bunch more guests coming up, and we're going to be starting to spin up our podcast again and putting out more content. So please subscribe here. If you're watching this video or you're listening to this, we thrive off of more subscribers, and we really appreciate it. Adam, thanks for being on the team. Thanks for being on the podcast today. That's a wrap for your Growth Game podcast, and with Paul DeLuca and Adam Forbes, our special guest, and so happy to have you on board this for going forward here in 25, Adam. So
thank you
we'll
so much.
talk to you later, audience.